Yeah, how do you deal with that tension as a drummer when you're thinking about, okay, there's, especially when you're playing something that's got some energy to it and there's a natural sense of, oh, I need to move, I need to like play, I need to hit things, I need to fill this space versus like, this is, do less, play less.
Recording yourself and listening to yourself back will do that to you. I just heard, I can't remember where I heard it from, but somebody was saying like when they listen back to themselves perform like their instrument, they're like, I never listen back and think, oh, I didn't play enough notes. It's always like, I'm playing too much here. So that always serves as a good one, whether it's just like recording a practice session and just like, or like if I'm recording to an idea that I'm working on or whatever it is, just to listen back like musically, which
Sure.
is hard to do, right? When you got your producer ears on and you're in the middle of a session, sometimes your brain is going towards like, man, it'd be cool to fill up this space with a lot of notes. It'd be cool to do this and that. So, I mean, it's helpful to like repeatedly, I think, listen to yourself back and ideally probably do so how you would listen to any other music, like listen to it when you like out in the world or in the car or whatever it is. And at least for me, real quick, you'll be like, God, I'm playing too much. Like I'm playing too much. It's not serving, it's not serving the tune. What this actually needs is just pocket. It's just sitting in the pocket and then maybe like one little drum fill to come out. So yeah. So what do I do is just try to stay cognizant of that and try to not lose sight of that, which the more I record myself and try to constructively listen to myself, that helps me get there. Is like, you're doing too much, like chill out, So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's one way.
Yeah, that's cool. So does that happen mostly as you're working on things projects that you're working on, or is that also a deliberate part of like a practice routine that you have where you just hit record and you're not necessarily trying to perform or write anything, but just as a way to assess your practice and like how you're doing?
More recently is starting to become like an intentional thing, which is good. But yeah, like all things that are like part of the craft, it's like, it's not easy. It's like, you want to set it and forget it. You want to flip a switch and be like, cool, I'm doing that now. But it's like, you gotta repeatedly do it. So it's just like forming any other habit, which, there's a sticky kind of part at the beginning of it, but I definitely have tried to start to do it more intentionally. I think when I first realized or was like, oh, that's a good way to like start practice sessions or start sessions is like, there's this piano YouTube channel called Open Studio, I think. They're really awesome. It's just these jazz piano guys that make really cool pieces of like video content all on, just like music theory and piano playing. And every other like Saturday, he'll just go live for like an hour and it's just like guided practice. And I really like the way he thinks of music because he's like a shredder, and he's like a jazz head. So like really brainy and high music IQ, but somebody you could listen to endlessly because he just makes it really relatable. And he focuses more on like concepts that are very relatable to everyone, not just in jazz or something like that. And every practice session, he'll just be like, okay, for 1-2 minutes, you just sit and you're going to hear, we're just listening what's going on around you. And I was like, dude, like it was like mildly mind blowing, but sitting and then just being like, and just hearing what is the sounds that are filling the space already. Cause then I did realize it was like, then when I started making noise or making ideas or anything like that, my brain was, rather than doing like, I need to fill silence, I need to fill space with all these ideas and notes. It became like, whether it's embracing the sound in the room or it was more like picking sounds rather than trying to just fill space, which that really is like a recurring theme that I'm noticing. I feel like I'm always trying to pare back. I feel like I'm making more decisions rather than making better decisions musically. I feel like that's such an easy temptation for producers because we have all the control and you can do all these. You can fill the space with interesting things and ear candy or just add more layers just because you're able to. But I feel like I get to a point where it's like you're equating more content and more decisions and more music as better. And it's like, of course it's not. So just pulling myself back to reality in that way of try to make better decisions, not more decisions, like tasteful, curated layers rather than like, I don't know what to do here. Maybe like another percussion loop on top of it. So that's been really a deep rabbit hole because obviously it's all subjective, but takes a lot of intentionality. But that's a nice little, highly recommended just to try it out even one time for anybody if you haven't done it before, is start your practice session or your beat making session or whatever it is, just with listening, literally sitting in the room and listening, and you could be hearing like nothing but traffic noise outside, but taking that in and just like grounding yourself with where you are and the noise that is already being present, and it just kind of slows you down too. Personally, I'm just a person that I get a little like rushed, feeling
Sure.
like I need to like get working, get moving, get like make something cool. And that's something that reminds me, it's like, nope, you're here today, you're going to be here tomorrow, you're going to be here the next day. Just calm down, relax, just try to be present. So yeah, that's a real that one has been working out pretty well for me. Just like a minute too, even just like a minute, literally a minute or two, because when you're in silence, that's a long time, so
Yeah.
that's all you need is just like a little thing at the top, just being like, just slowing yourself down. But that's been working out pretty decent for me.
That's cool. Could you remind me who this piano guy is? So I'm going to put him in a link into this so people can check it out if they want to.
Yeah. Open Studio and like YouTube for sure. Is they got a bunch of like all that, the guided practices and just a bunch of cool videos that are very inspiring.
That sounds super cool, man. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And yeah, I mean, I love this idea of making better decisions as opposed to more decisions. It kind of connects to some of what I was talking about with Medic in a previous conversation in episode 10, which is sort of this quality versus quantity thing. And I think it's also connected to this idea that you should feel maybe exhausted or that there's like a lot of effort expended in order to make something good. And in art and in music specifically, I'm not sure if that's always the case. And I'm curious, what's your experience with that? Because sometimes you can work for hours and hours and hours and feel like nothing comes. And on the other hand, you can sit down, spend 2 minutes in silence and all this, and 5 minutes later, you have like what's essentially an entire song, that just needs to kind of be, produced.
You said it right there. I think if anything, there's maybe a correlation between, I don't know, it's a bold statement, but maybe even a correlation between less work or at least less overthinking. But I know anecdotally for me, it's the same thing. It's every song that I know that I spent too long on and overthought, that is independent from the listener. And of course, they're not cognizant of all of your criticisms of it. But my relationship with that and my excitement about that piece of music isn't that big because I've just destroyed my ears with it. And I know that I did too much on it and whatever else. But yeah, I think the songs that, if I had to pick some out, like what are your songs that you think are the coolest that you've made or you're most proud of, they would be the ones where it's like, that was a one session, like that was a single session song, and because there's something being captured there, like I think there is such truth to like inspiration just being so fleeting. Like it's so fleeting, it's crazy. So it makes sense that like you don't get to just camp out for a month on that little fleeting thing and you get to just milk it for. That's kind of the whole nature of the game, is that it's fleeting. We want to be like in position and prepared to when the inspiration comes, that we are in a physical space where we can do something about it, or in a headspace where we're able to work. We're in a physical space where we're energized and taking care of our body. So we try to put ourselves in the position to be ready for it. And then when it comes, it's like, you're probably going to want to strike while the iron's hot. And yeah, I think it's only becoming more and more clear and evident to me that, again, every idea is so different. And yeah, some ideas are made better by you putting it on the back burner and sitting on it and then coming back to it months down the road, maybe. Because there's also, I'm sure the same with you, there's plenty of times that's happened to me too. Like, I hung on to a chord progression or some drums from years ago. I was, nothing happened with them at the time, but just sat on an idea and then came back to it with fresh ears and was so glad that I saved it. So glad that I came back to it and was able to come back to it with fresh ears and then make something new out of it. So definitely gotta, acknowledge that that can happen too. And there are ideas that beg marinating on it and working hard on it. But I think in general, and what's most healthy, at least, of course, always just speaking personally, what I'm finding is most healthy is me and my buddy Christian, who goes by Straylo, call it just fire and forget
Mm,
mentality, which is so, I think for producers, so healthy. But it's like, yeah, you want to get, I think it's very healthy to get in that mentality of like, work on the ideas and try to finish them up. The first session should be able to get like 80% of it done. And then you want to wrap it up, not just for the sake of finishing the idea, but letting yourself move on too. Like
mm,
that's something that became apparent to me. Like if I am not finishing them and I'm letting myself work more on them and tinker around with tiny little changes that aren't actually changing the substance of the song, then like I become stagnant and I'm like, I'm sitting there feeling like I haven't finished anything for months because I haven't, because I'm
yeah.
like, it's not done yet. It's not done yet. So for myself, it's becoming just incredibly clear that you want to just keep tabs on it and understand that there's going to be instances where it's perfectly fine to labor over it for a long time. But I think in general, it's super, super healthy to try to get things to a point of completion, just because nothing is worse than stagnation.
Yeah.
So in order to avoid that, letting yourself move on to the next idea, knowing that there's always going to be a next idea and that it's important to allow yourself to move on to the next idea.